we're lossy. We're incredibly lossy. Our accounts have been submitted. You can see them. We lost 20 million last year. We're investing in this sport because we believe in the sport. Bear in mind that about half the grid are still lossy. That means someone somewhere, an investor, owners, whatever it may be, are putting in tens of millions, or in fact, in our case, it's going to go up to multiples above that.
Even with Drive to Survive, record interest, huge sponsorship deals, many of these Formula One teams are still not able to operate at a profit in 2023. Williams, of course, are one, and I think it's safe to say that Haas, Alfa Romeo and Alfa Tauri, almost certainly three of the others that James are talking about. And all this talk, this internal resistance about Andretti joining the grid and making it an 11th team is because the teams want to protect the prize pot. This money, it matters to them. Well, after this weekend's Austin Grand Prix, with just 4 races to go this season, the bottom 4 teams all still have a valid shot at P7. And the difference between 7th and last, it's about $35 million. This is the most valuable and important constructors battle in all of Formula One. Let's talk about it. So firstly, let's clarify, what is this pie? Because no, we're not talking about steak and kidney, we're talking about the Concord Agreement in place till 2025. Now, it isn't known the exact amount of prize money that's given per position, but we can make a pretty accurate estimate based off of quotes and articles. The race has reported it's in the range of $11 to $12 million, and Fred Vasseur was quoted last year talking about a $10 million figure after they just about edged out Aston Martin in the constructors. We are under the budget ceiling, but any kind of extra income makes a big difference. We will see that next year, but it will definitely help. I know some teams say you can't do anything with $2 million, but with $10 million, we can do a lot. Now, is it true that most of these teams are running at the budget cap, even a Haas, for example? Yes, with the MoneyGram sponsorship, they're able to hit that cap. But that doesn't for a minute mean that MoneyGram are doing enough to cover all of their costs, not by any stretch. Same with Williams, right? Their accounts put a $20 million loss last season. James Vowles said it's going to be a lot more this season because Dorilton are investing heavy, but the amount of sponsors they've got is not offsetting that. The owners at Alfa Tauri, Williams, Sauber, Haas, they're not in the green, right? Like, for example, Red Bull seem to have been turning a profit now because they generate so much money. We know that Oracle deal, for example, was huge for them. Big multi-year partnership is exactly what an F1 team wants, and it comes with the success, and it's difficult, isn't it? You're not going to generate that same sponsor buzz until you start moving up the field, and you're going to have to invest. You're going to have to take the L financially in the short term to hope you can grow the asset and turn the team into something successful. But yeah, unfortunately, someone's got to finish 10th every season. They can't all finish first. For ease, let's say $12 million per position. Right now, of course, with the ATR, it is a sliding scale. For every position higher you finish, you get 5% less wind tunnel time. So the difference between first and second is the same in terms of financial and ATR as the difference between 9th and 10th. But I would argue the value is very different. Red Bull are operating a profit. They've got lots of money. They're supported by Big Daddy Red Bull, right? If they get an extra 12 million, is it going to change their world as much as 5% ATR? Perhaps that 12 million can still make more of a difference overall to Red Bull Racing. All these costs outside of the budget cap still need to be accounted for. But then let's compare Red Bull to Williams. Again, Vowles has been very open. They are operating at losses. They are investing heavily, Dorilton, with no guaranteed return of that investment. An extra 12 million to Williams versus losing 5% ATR. That extra 12 million is so much more valuable. Surely, right? If you add that up over a few different positions, that can be worth tens of millions, which can take you from making a significant loss to a little bit of profit potentially. I don't think a team like Williams are going to be turning a profit anytime soon, right? Because they know they need to invest. They need to go hard now to build the blocks to get them back towards the front where that name should be. But of course, Sauber want the same with Audi coming in. Of course, Red Bull have that asset of Alfa Tauri. They want to grow that. And I mean, Gene Haas, who knows, to be honest. I'm surprised he hasn't sold that team up already. But you know what? Keep building that investment. I'm sure he'll chuck it in eventually and make a big profit. This is why I say this is the most valuable and important constructors battle in all of F1, because the value of each position must be so much more valuable to these teams at the bottom, because these teams at the bottom are the ones most financially at risk. So who's going to pick up these scraps then? Who's going to finish 7th? Who's going to finish 10th? Well, let's start with Williams, who are currently sitting P7, 26 points on the board. And that double disqualification for Leclerc and Hamilton definitely helped them out. 3 points on the board. They're 11th and 12th on the track. pushed up to 9th and 10th. Logan Sargent, first point on the board, which could be big as well. It was a strong race from Logan. He wasn't a mile off Alex and he kept it clean, and the first time that feels like forever. That is the exact result he needed when he needed it, and hopefully moving forward, we've got obviously Mexico this weekend, then Interlagos, then Las Vegas, then Abu Dhabi, and Las Vegas is an important one. We know that car is a rocket ship in a straight line, and that track seems to play to their strengths. Although I will say, tracks that you don't expect Williams to be quick at. I mean, Zandvoort, remember? Albon was flying, and this car's meant to have no downforce, yet he's killing it. I don't know, it's hard to predict with Williams. But given their gap to P8, they should be okay. They should be safe in 7th. But it takes one freak result, and everything can change. Next, Alfa Romeo, P8, 16 points. Qatar was huge for them. P8, P9 for Valtteri and Joe in the end. 6 points on the board, took their total from 10 to 16 in just one race. They will have 4 or 5 stinkers in a row, and then they'll turn up to a track like Hungary and a track like Qatar and be flying. I mean, that Hungary qualifying result was mad. Both into Q3, Joe 5th, Bottas 7th, and if Joe hadn't had that car issue on the line, what could have been, right? That was a big opportunity missed. I mean, Hungary and Qatar, similar characteristics in a way. I mean, maybe Interlagos is the closest to them too in terms of track characteristics. They're not going to be good in Vegas. I don't think they're going to be good in Mexico. Probably not going to be good in Abu Dhabi. They're probably going to have one really good race of these last 4, and they need to capitalise. But a 10-point gap to Williams feels pretty insurmountable to me. But what I will say is I do think their strength lies in their driver lineup, just in terms of they will get it to the line. Bottas and Joe are nothing groundbreaking, but they can do a job, and they can do a job well. If you get a bunch of retirements up front, you can usually rely on these two to keep it clean and potentially bring a big haul of points home. There's got to be one freak result in these last 4 races, including a sprint as well, by the way. It's a long shot, but don't count them out just yet. Next, Haas, P9, 12 points on the board. Oh, Haas. Expectations were high going into Austin. And look, maybe they should have been tempered. They bought a big upgrade. It's a sprint weekend, some minimal practice running, glorified testing session, the race anyway. They were never near the points at any stretch anyway, starting from the pit lane as well. And first glimpse didn't look great, especially when you compare to, say, McLaren, who did bring their big upgrade first for Lando in Austria and pretty much hit the ground running. But they're going to be working diligently right now, Haas, to understand everything that went on in Austin so they can come into Mexico with FP1, 2 and 3, and hopefully unlock some tyre saving in this car, because one lap pace hasn't been a huge issue for Haas. It is this tyre saving. Nico qualifies well, it's typically Nico, and then falls down the field because tyres are gone. It really does illustrate the point, and we've seen this with Aston Martin as well. It's not just bringing upgrades, it's understanding these upgrades. An upgrade assumes that it's going to improve performance. There were a lot of assumptions going on last year. Mercedes, say, with the Zero Pod, because their simulation said it was going to be quicker, but in real life, it's a different thing to the sim. CFD is not the same as tarmac. Look, they've got 2 very experienced drivers. K-Mag has been disappointing. Hulk's been very, very good over a lap. He's always been very good over a lap. I've got reason to have belief that Haas will turn it somewhat around. Okay, there's 4 to go. For these teams at the bottom, it is worth bringing these upgrades because, again, the financial benefit of even just finishing 1 position higher is massive. 14 points to Williams could be a stretch. But you know what? I have a bit more belief in Haas than I do Alfa Romeo, even though Haas are behind Alfa Romeo right now. Nico Hülkenberg, man. Because then finally we have P10, AlphaTauri, with 10 points on the board, doubled their points total in Austin thanks to that double DNF. Yuki Tsunoda going for fastest lap at the end. P10 up to P8, 5 points instead of 2. That's 8 for him all season, and obviously up to 10 with Liam Lawson's 2. They might be stone dead last, but of these bottom 3 teams, they seem to have the most momentum. Like the fact that Yuki was able to pull out enough of a gap to Alex, right, P10 to P11, to pit for soft tyres and go for fastest lap. That speaks volumes for how Yuki's race pace was quite superior to the Williams. Yes, Alex did have a 5-second penalty for track limits. It happens. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Yuki in the AlphaTauri had pace. Daniel Ricciardo, yes, he finished last in Austin. He had a clean weekend. He's coming back from the injury.
Plus, he picked up damage after putting the hard tyre on. So, really hard to measure Daniel's pace at Austin.
I'm expecting him to get closer to his ceiling. You look at what he did in Hungary. I mean, that was his first race in that car, and he did outperform Yuki that weekend in his very first race in the AlphaTauri. There's more to come from Ricciardo. Yuki is the most on-form driver of these bottom three teams for sure. Close with Hulkenberg, but I would still give it to Yuki. Once Daniel starts to fire on all cylinders, and look, we've got, again, Mexico is very different to Vegas, which is very different to Interlagos. There's opportunities here for points for these AlphaTauris. 16 points is a big gap, but if anyone can do it, I think AlphaTauri are the most likely, to be honest. So what's your predictions? P7 to P10, how's it going to finish this season? For me, Williams 7, AlphaTauri 8, Haas 9, Alfa Romeo 10. Drop this one a like if you enjoyed it. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one.